No, that's why I'm sorry. I was confused. I thought I was in the startup Huddle demo.
You what?
I thought I was in the startup Huddle demo.
You are.
Am I?
Yeah, but you probably just want to join from this too.
Oh, so I'm not in this?
No, but we're just happy you're here. But actually, why don't you stay up here?
Are you sure? Are you
Hello,
sure?
Sam. You want to stay?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have. I think that's it because the other woman that's supposed to be on the panel.
Yeah.
Couldn't come at the end, and
Oh.
I just wanted
I'll
to
just-
make solid reps from around the world /
Okay.
also people. When,
All right, cool. Sorry.
it's about.
Okay.
You know the answers to all of them. Hello.
So you're in the startup. Where are you from? Sorry.
Hi, sorry. I was in Johannesburg, 2022. Based here.
Alessi. Okay.
Yeah. And yourself?
I'm Chris from Chile.
Chile.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go there.
And how come you've never
I don't know, but I've been to Medellin, and I've been to Bogota,
Okay.
and I've been to Horatio.
All right, we're going to get started.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody.
You haven't gone to Argentina.
My name is Yuval, and I'm the director of a program called Startup Huddle through Global Entrepreneurship Network. I'm going to give you a 30-second overview of what the program is so that you know and set it up a little bit, and then pass it on to our Huddle organizers from around the world to tell you more about their experience. And then if you're interested in launching a Startup Huddle in your city and in your country, we have another session where we're going to talk to you more about what it's actually like to launch the program. This is more about the impact it's made and like the activity that's going on in these cities so that you get a sense. So just to explain the differentiation between the two panels, or the two sessions. Startup Huddle is a free monthly program run locally, it's city-based, that helps entrepreneurs get the most out of the knowledge and power of their community. So an entrepreneur gets a chance to stand up like I am right now for 6 minutes, share their story, share what's going on with their startup, and then the rest of the time, people just like yourselves get to offer suggestions, give advice, ask questions, make recommendations, share resources. And what we've seen this do, and you'll hear, is just unlock the power of peer networks. So if you are someone who's sitting there and has way too many office hours to be able to handle doing them all, or if you're looking for a way to just bring your community together more often so they can meet each other, or if you're looking for a way for your entrepreneurs to get to know more resources in the community, this is a program that can help with that. We started Startup Huddle about a year ago at the GEC, and we're in about 45 cities around the world right now. So it's grown really fast this year, and I'm happy to, based on where you are, introduce you to people who are doing the work in your continent or country or region. But we also have American ambassadors that have been running a program called 1 Million Cups that inspired Startup Huddle. 1 Million Cups started in 2014 through the Kauffman Foundation, and it's exactly the same program, but just in the United States. And what started happening is people came to Jen and said, hey, we want to do the thing they're doing in the United States all around the world. Like, we want to do it in Pakistan, in St. Lucia, in Bangladesh. And we said, okay, well, we're going to have to figure out a way to do this outside the United States because people need it, and it's working in the United States. And so last year, we started expanding it outside of the US, but we have American ambassadors that do 1 million cups and have been doing it for, some of them, 4 or 5 years, teaching people in other countries how to run startup huddles, which is the same program, just a different name. And so today we have our moderator for this panel is Kim, who has hosted her own 1 million cups in Conway, Arkansas in the past, and she also manages 32 1 million cups in part of the United States. So she has experience helping other chapters launch and also has experience running her own. And for the last 2 years, she's been involved in Startup Huddle and helping kind of build that out through Jen. So she is an expert, not only moderator, but also an expert in the program. And between her and me and all of the other Startup Huddle organizers in the room, we're happy to answer any questions you have after the panel and invite you to the demo at 2:30. So with that, I will pass it on to Kim, who will introduce our panelists and get it started. And then we're excited to meet you and help you out and get you started in your country when you get home next week.
Fantastic. Thank you, Yuval. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. As Yuval said, I'm a senior advisor for the Global Entrepreneurship Network, and I also am the Southwest Regional Representative for the Kauffman Foundation, managing 1 million cups in the Southwest U.S. So really passionate about this type of programming. Today we're going to talk about Startup Huddle, but we're also going to talk about keeping entrepreneurs at the center of programming, which Startup Huddle is a fantastic way to do that. I'm going to go ahead and just have the panelists introduce themselves, and then we'll do some Q&A, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So definitely think about questions you want to ask, and I'll save some time at the end to do that.
Hello everyone, this is Asif Iqbal. I'm the lead organizer of Startup Huddle Dhaka in Bangladesh. Other than this, I'm teaching entrepreneurship in one of the largest private university in Bangladesh, in the Department of Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So from when I started teaching in Daffodil International University, so I was trying to figure out how should we engage our students from the department to the founders of different organizations. So I took some of the people from different organizations. They're the founders or CEO. So then I was searching about how is there any such program is happening in the world. Then I found 1 million cup, but I at that time I didn't know about the Startup Huddle. So then I searched and I've gone through that 1 million cup. Then I found that it was in only USA based. Then when last year when I was in Istanbul in Global Entrepreneurship Congress, then I came to know about Startup Huddle, and that's how it was started in Dhaka, and we have run successfully for the last 6 or 7 months in Dhaka.
Hi everyone, my name is Alessimo Mwanga. I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm the lead organizer in Johannesburg. I also came across Startup Huddle in 2017 when we organized the Global Entrepreneurship Congress in South Africa in Johannesburg, if some of you were there. I came across the program because our facilitator mentioned, it is more entrepreneur-centered and focused, and one of the challenges in South Africa as well is that there aren't a lot of programs that are centered and focused around entrepreneurs themselves and for entrepreneurs to learn from each other. And I thought it would be a wonderful opportunity, given that Johannesburg is one of the hubs in South Africa that is really entrepreneurial and has a lot of entrepreneurial communities in that area, and how we could better structure and build an ecosystem within the Gen network in Johannesburg at our startup campus in Johannesburg.
Hi everyone, my name is Cristobal, or you can call me Chris. I'm from Chile, and we started Startup Huddle Santiago not long ago. We've been working with Jen and Yuval since a couple of months now. We had our first huddle about 3 weeks ago, and we are learning about this whole new process. I could even be sitting where you are, because this is all brand new to me. We decided to start Startup Huddle in Chile, in Santiago, because when we were part of a scholarship in the US called the Wildlife Fellowship, it's the Young Leaders of the Americas initiative, which Michelle here is part of the 2017 generation and part of the 2016. When we went back to Chile, we decided we need to do something different in our country. Try to understand these things we learned, these brand new tools, and share them in our country. And that's the main reason why we started a nonprofit called Becarios for Impact, and that nonprofit is the one that's working with Startup Huddle at the moment.
Hi everybody, my name is Michelle Samuel, and I am the head organizer of Startup Huddle St. Lucia, that is an island based in the Caribbean. And Startup Huddle came about with me being introduced to 1 Million Cups, Kansas City as a matter of fact. So through my wildlife fellowship, I was placed there in 2017, and I got the privilege to attend 1 Million Cups KC every Wednesday. And I was intrigued by the level of diversity and the type of community support that persons get and the amount of sharing that takes place. And I noticed that that's what's lacking in my country, in my island. And so with my organization, Slud Terror, which is a social enterprise, I felt what better way than to copy this model that I learned from 1 Million Cups KC and bring it back home. And I also got that extra oomph to really push it forward through learning through YLI. So I owe a lot of this experience through to the Young Leaders of the Americas initiative, because that is how I got introduced to 1 Million Cups, and that is why I decided to go ahead and launch Startup Huddle St. Lucia.
Fantastic. So Startup Huddle is a good example of sort of a bottom-up organic growth ecosystem. So it's definitely, like I said, empowered. It's empowered by the information coming from the entrepreneur, and it's very much catering to the entrepreneur rather than any other kind of stakeholder. So can we zoom out a little bit from Startup Huddle, and can you just talk about the impact that that approach has had on your communities, and just anyone can respond? Michelle, I think you've probably seen a big impact in St. Lucia.
Yes, so with Startup Huddle St. Lucia, we launched officially November 13th, 2018, during Global Entrepreneurship Week. And I felt that was a strategic move because that was also Business Month back in my country. So what my team and I did, we partnered with the St. Lucia Chamber of Commerce, which is the host of GEW. And using their calendar of activities, we were able to funnel several persons who would attend our activities. And in addition to that, what I did was I sourced out 2 entrepreneurs who were startups, but were also making some really big strides in their companies. And I felt what better way to sort of maximize that viewership, but to also have key speakers come on board as well. And I was able to connect with a St. Lucian entrepreneur who's also an inventor. And he goes by the name of Joshua Esnard, the inventor of the Cut Buddy. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of him. So he agreed to come to St. Lucia and share his success stories with these upcoming entrepreneurs, and agreed to sit on our expert panel. And so at that event, we had a room full of policymakers, entrepreneurs, business owners, including students who were very interested to hear what was this program all about. Why is it different from anything else? And they got to understand that it's mostly about the community, about connecting people. A lot of the times things are happening around you and you have no clue that's going on. Or there is something happening that you may be able to help somebody do and you're not aware. So by those persons coming forward, they were able to understand how they can connect to each other and how they can assist one another. And having those persons share their success stories, and not just successes, their failures and their roadblocks, they can have an understanding that even though I fall, I can still get right back up. All I need is just that support. And so the launch was successful, and we moved swiftly into the first Startup Huddle session, which took place the following day with the 2 presenters. And those 2 presenters, one of which is actually named Johanan Dujo. He's the owner of Algas Organics. And right now, he is making waves around the Caribbean and around the world. He has found a way to transform the sargassum seaweed into a fertilizer that helps plants to grow throughout the season, even through winter. And that's amazing. And through his presentation, he was able to reach certain resources outside of St. Lucia. In addition to what he already tapped into, he got the attention of Startup Huddle Mandura as well. So this was a reach for him. And since then, we've held 7 sessions, each with 2 presenters, with the exception of one for February. And each of these presenters has had a success story since they presented. And that was the impact I was looking for. And this impact moves beyond the shores of St. Lucia. So this is the avenue that I was looking for, to open up to entrepreneurs that there is no such thing as limitation. Okay, so once you can make the right connections, it's possible for you to reach there.
Fantastic. And to follow up on that, part of the impetus behind Startup Huddle is to form these inclusive communities of trust, which is huge. And I think this does a fantastic job. That was a great description of how that can be done. But to do a monthly program where the entire mindset during the program is how can we help each other, really does change the face of your entire approach to the ecosystem, but it also changes the face of the ecosystem. So does anyone have a follow-up on just the trust building component of Startup Huddle?
Yeah.
Sure. With us, it's pretty much the same. We found that we had entrepreneurs benefit a lot from crowdsourcing solutions from different stakeholders in the ecosystem, some obviously being ecosystem support builders, others being investors, actually. We had a lot of investors also coming to Startup Huddle to listen to some of the challenges that the entrepreneurs faced. That would be venture capitalists and development finance institutions, as well as angel capital networks. And so they got a diverse input from different stakeholders on how to improve their business model. And we created a safe space for them to be able to share their challenges, because oftentimes entrepreneurs feel stigmatized if they're failing. They always have to seem as if they're well put together or know exactly what they're saying. So it was also an opportunity for them to learn how to pitch well as well, or to share their ideas in an improved way as well, from sharing and getting feedback from a diverse community. But it also really assisted with entrepreneurs networking with each other, and they ended up using services from each other. That's some of the outcomes that we experienced from our huddles.
Can we talk a little bit about, you use the term safe space, which I think is really important, especially thinking about how to form a community that's, again, based around the entrepreneur and not the stakeholders. Can one of you follow up on the whole idea of safe space and how to create that through these types of programs?
Steps.
Okay. Yeah.
First thing is, and a bit tell about something, follow up with Michelle. That is, if for the impact factor in Startup Huddle Dhaka, I used to invite diversified of people, like the students, like the mentors, investors like angel or VCs or bankers, to be in my session. So I have done so far 6 or 7 events. So on those events, the employment the amazing thing is employment creation is there, because I have found 5 to 6 people are involved in some of the organization of those who came to as my speaker. Then one of my founder who as the speak in my session got the investment from one bank. So that is one of the success story, other than the collaboration part. And safe space, as you know, Daffodil is I work for Daffodil as a teacher. So for me, it is I have another thing is these Bangladesh Venture Capital and Daffodil Business Incubator. So both for me, both are the places are safe to host the program every month or every week. It can be done.
Fantastic. Any other follow up on safe space?
Sure. Even though we just started with Startup Huddle, on our Becarios for Impact organization, we had about 20 to 25 workshops during 2018. And I have to say, none of them were like the Startup Huddle we had. Yep. But the whole thing is way different because it's very intimate. And I think that's one of the main advantages of Startup Huddle, is that sometimes we kind of feel lost when we are entrepreneurs, and we might feel that we are left out, or we don't have enough time to speak to someone about our problems, or maybe find solutions with people, with peers. Finally, we are all in the same kind of atmosphere. So Startup Huddle does give you that opportunity to keep talking and networking, same as this whole GEC, but in a smaller scale, in a different chapter. So it's a great opportunity.
I couldn't help myself, sorry. I wanted to add one piece about this. So a lot of people that I've spoken to, is Abdikani in here? No, but he was just telling me that one of the things that was really hard at the beginning of his Startup Huddle was that entrepreneurs didn't want to share their idea when they were just getting started. I'm seeing some nods. They were worried that people would steal their idea. I think one of the things that Startup Huddle tries to kind of help people overcome is we're not in a competition. You have your idea, I have my idea. We're all here to help each other grow, and our city is going to be better if we all help each other and not steal ideas. So we really are trying to encourage this sense of not holding your idea inside and not sharing it with people, so that hide it and make sure that no one steals it, but really going out there and sharing it to open the opportunity for people to help you. Same way that everything that's hard in your life, you're having a hard time, emotionally, you have a therapist. You're having a hard time in school, you get a tutor. You're having a hard time with your business, you share it, and then people come and offer advice and support. And the only way to get help is to share what's going on and share your problems. So I think Startup Huddle in a more you were saying intimate way is about being open to sharing challenges and then kind of letting the community stand up and say, I can help with that, I know the answer, and not being worried that people are going to steal your idea, but being excited about the potential ideas that people might bring to the table when you share. So if you're in a city that's having trouble with getting people to collaborate because they're worried about idea stealing, then we can talk about this potentially being a way to solve that.
Follow up on that. So there is something, you use the word intimate, which I really like, because again, it's sort of this safe space. In America, 1 Million Cups is actually run weekly, where startup huddles are mostly run monthly. But people in America oftentimes call this church for entrepreneurs, because you get so much in the mindset of this is like my place with my people that I go every single week, and it could also be a monthly phenomenon. But can you talk about, so something else that's really powerful about this program is it's a good entryway to entrepreneurial ecosystem building. So we use that phrase a lot, and I know it sounds really vague, but how do you get all these players involved? How do you get them all working together as a network? And how do you get it with the entrepreneur at the forefront? Something beautiful about Startup Huddle is that it's run by volunteer organizers. So we recommend that you get lots of different kinds of stakeholders involved, maybe people who wouldn't necessarily understand what you're doing, but you ask them to be part of this organizing team, which kind of forces them to get involved. So chambers of commerce, banks, policymakers, etc. So I just want to talk a little bit about if you have seen this as an entryway into ecosystem building or your local ecosystem, and kind of if any takeaways from that.
Yeah, sure. So for me, it was exactly that. Fortunately, we had been Global Entrepreneurship Week hosts in South Africa. So we already had some of the partners already that we could reach out to, but it was an opportunity to extend ourselves to new partners and new ecosystem stakeholders to get more involved in an entrepreneurship program. And they were really excited about how different this program was from a bottom to top approach, and so it was actually very easy for me to engage with them to assist with organizing the events, but also we looked at a theme as well that would help with entrepreneurs that wanted to present their challenges or pitch for 3 minutes, and that's what really helped to get input from different stakeholders. But also the most important thing was involving entrepreneurs in that process, because they're the ones that obviously face those challenges, and that's what also actually created those safe spaces and intimate moments that you mentioned. So I think if you already have a community, start from there. But if you don't have a community, it's really easy to get them involved if you get them involved from the process from the beginning.
Fantastic. Any follow-up on that?
Yeah, well, in terms of ecosystem building, what I decided to do, my approach to it was, again, through my partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, who already had over 40 different corporate partners. I was able to tap into those existing resources. So it sort of eliminated the duplication of efforts on my end, and it also allowed them to see a structure that was proven, because this is something that has been successful in the US for several years, and it is simply being adopted in a local setting, in a national setting. And what they were really happy to see is that persons were willing to literally volunteer their time and effort into putting this together, because in the past it was like pulling teeth, to get people to do things. And by seeing the number of people who were so interested in boosting up startups because they understand the impact that startups have on the economy, and this was what really kept them with us, to the point where I'm just going to show you this. This is the official business magazine of St. Lucia, to the point where they recognized how important this was, and they featured the program in the magazine, mainly because for this particular session, we focused on the youth entrepreneurship. And at this time, and again, timing is very key, at this time, persons were really looking at how do we get the young people involved in things if there's not really jobs out there at this point? How do we get them to tap into using their existing talent and skills to make something of themselves? So what we did was that we reached out to persons who were already dealing with youth group leaders, policymakers that advocate for youth, and they were more than willing to come on board to help push this program forward. And by us doing that, the program grew faster than we expected it to. And now it is to the point where persons know when Startup Huddle St. Lucia is, and they are looking forward to the next event.
That's fantastic, and I'm glad you brought the media mention there too. And something that's really great about this program is that it's backed, obviously, by Jen. So it's like immediate validation when you launch in your community. There's not a lot of having to convince people that it's an important event. So that does go a long way. I want to ask one more question, then I want to open it up. But I want to talk about where to start. If people in the audience want to start Startup Huddle like in the next month, what do you recommend?
Well, I guess I'm the newbie here, so. First of all, I have to say thank you to Michelle. She was the one who actually, she wasn't spamming, but she was sending a lot of emails, like trying to encourage Startup Huddle, which is great. And that's the people we need, motivated people who are trying to give and donate their time in order to make a difference in the world. So thank you. And if you think you want to start a Startup Huddle in your city, let us know. We'll be here. But first of all, is applying. I don't know how. I remember we applied. There's some certain times you can apply for the Startup Huddle, and when you do, Yuval will take you with the whole process. It's very simple. The whole structure of Startup Huddle is very organized and easy to follow up. So it's not as hard as you would think. And the playbook, they actually give you information how to focus and how to do the whole process easily. So you have amount of people you need to have on your team, what's going to do every single person. So it's very easy to follow. And trust me, it's a different thing. It's, as you said before, it's like church for entrepreneurs, and we sometimes need that.
Awesome. Okay, any questions from the audience? Questions about Startup Huddle? Yeah. I'll repeat the question. How are you doing the outreach to bring attendees to Startup Huddle?
I guess we work with the U.S. Embassy in Chile, and that's what we're trying to focus on. They do help us a lot with the outreach. We also work with the American space, which is where we are having the huddles. It's part of the, it's not part of the U.S. Embassy, but it's an American-related organization, and they are doing the outreach too. And we are also sharing the program through our nonprofit onto different startup communities on Facebook and Instagram. We're still young. We just started. We have just one huddle. But I guess that's the first approach, the easiest way to go.
So we use a lot of social media. We really use a lot of social media to get a lot of traction. That's worked for us the most. And we also have a database of entrepreneurs that we've obviously developed through hosting Global Entrepreneurship Week events. So if you host Global Entrepreneurship Week events, that's the best way to actually create that database for yourself when you want to have these monthly type of events. So those are the key things that we used.
Mostly I did in the social media. I have all the pages like LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, and so on. So other than these, when I started promoting those events, I used to mail the investors, I mean VCs, and some of the bankers there, so that they will know about the program and they will come in my events. And some of the mentors who are mentoring some of the startups or entrepreneurs to build their business, so they used to come in my event through social media or through email. This is the main key to outreach them.
Okay, well, in terms of outreach, it was really simple for me. And again, you have to be really strategic. So you want to exclude too much groundwork on your end. So you find out who is already working with entrepreneurs or startups. So in my case, it was Sedu. And what they do is that they help to register startups. So they already have a database there. And I'm one of their clients as well. So they're more than willing to share that information with their clients. So with my business manager, what I do is that I send him the information and he funnels it to every single client that Seydou has. And also this same magazine that I mentioned, at the back of every one has a list of all the businesses that have registered for the entire year, for that quarter. So that was another resource that I used. Another one is the Chamber of Commerce. They deal with junior achievement. They deal with young leaders. So using those strategic partnerships, I was able to gather this entire database of persons. And of course, we do our own groundwork. So there is an individual that, that volunteers as a marketing manager. So we apply the playbook to the T. So this marketing manager is responsible for recruiting entrepreneurs as well as recruiting attendees. And what I've done is that I've created an incentive program and give them a quota. So if you recruit a certain number of attendees or entrepreneurs, there's a little prize for you at the end of the year. And trust me, they're willing to go ahead with that. It's really exciting. And the entire team is backed with it. So if you're looking to find a resource, there are several available. You just have to look for who's already dealing with entrepreneurs.
It's a good practice to leverage the networks that already exist and then use those to ask entrepreneurs to share their story. And that, I mean, that's really the most powerful part of it is again, empowering the entrepreneur to say, people want to hear your story, even if you're not, you know, these are for new companies. But one gives them a chance to share their story, but also it gives the community a way to see what entrepreneurship looks like. So I know in my city, it's a really rural town. People didn't know what entrepreneurship even was when we started this program. And so it was a way to say, well, why don't you just come to this program and hear a real entrepreneur sharing their story, and you could like see light bulbs going off in people's heads. So it's just a good way to kind of build those bridges. Any other questions from the audience? No questions? I want to talk a little bit about Global Entrepreneurship Week, actually, because a number of you have mentioned it. So can you talk about how GEW has also helped to keep the entrepreneur at the forefront and how that's helped build your ecosystem?
Okay. Last 2 years, I have done the program from Daffodil International University, Global Entrepreneurship Week. Last year, we have done almost in 7 days 200 programs, and almost 9,000 people are involved in. So Global Entrepreneurship is one of the most favorite program of mine because it is like a festival for all of the people who are actually want to be an entrepreneur or learn more about it. So it is like a awareness program. So I have done a segmentizedly like women, focused on women entrepreneurship, ecosystem building, the policy. So they discuss and they learn from various mentors, founders, and so on. Another thing is the competitions, their idea competitions, so that people will share the idea. So we have given the award there. So they are in the incubation of one of the incubator there in Bangladesh. So a lot of things other like startup market we do in that particular day. So student will have their own venture to showcase their product, so they can meet various people how he's doing and get the mentorship and so on. So these are the things I have done in the Global Entrepreneurship Week in Bangladesh.
Any other advice, feedback?
So Global Entrepreneurship Week is also one of my favorite flagship initiatives in the GEN network, simply because it brings together all the ecosystem stakeholders in our country, in South Africa, together for a week where throughout the year people are doing programs and doing initiatives, and it's a platform where a lot of stakeholders can share what happened throughout the year, what they could do better, who to collaborate with. It's really a networking opportunity for ecosystem stakeholders, builders, and also entrepreneurs themselves. I've been in the GW campaign for about 5 years now in South Africa. We started off with just about 500 activities 5 years ago to now over 8,000 activities. Over 11,000 participants, and it's been an exciting journey because it also has an influence on the mindset and cultural entrepreneurship culture in various communities that we've actually seen ourselves reaching out to, not just because obviously it was mostly centered in urban areas like your Johannesburg and your Cape Town, but now you're seeing it go to peri-urban areas like Durban and areas that aren't necessarily close to cities, which is actually the best part of it. I feel like that's where the impact, we can see that the impact has grown, and when we're seeing more corporates participating in partnering to fund these GW campaigns, and we're also seeing a lot of media traction on GW activities, and I think maybe because of one of the reasons was we launched the Global Entrepreneurship of the first Gen Campus during Global Entrepreneurship Week. So for us, it's also one of those initiatives where we can bring together all ecosystem stakeholders, gather information, share information, and strategically align ourselves to what we should do in the following year, and what best practices we can also learn within the Gen community when we come and meet with the rest of the global network communities at the Global Entrepreneurship Congress.
Awesome. Any other GEW hosts?
Okay, well, for me with GEW, what happened was that because it was such a big thing already in St. Lucia, it was very easy for persons to gravitate towards Startup Huddle St. Lucia. So much so to the point where they thought it was the same program, but we had to be able to distinguish the two. GEW is a collection of activities happening around the country, and persons are deciding, I'm going to have all my activities around during this period. Whereas with Startup Huddle St. Lucia, it is going to be held consecutively the second Wednesday of every month. So they can literally set their calendar, and if you miss a date, you can make the next one or make the next one. And what happened was that for persons who already had a love for the activities of GEW, they would automatically say, okay, well, I have something else to look forward to as well, and that happens every month. And it sort of builds up. So now what we have is that we have put together a plan where we're going to do a big anniversary celebration, which is going to be held again during GEW. So it now adds to the activities for the island. So it helps to even build up what's already there. So the two actually help one another. They're very different. They also focus on the entrepreneurs, but they assist one another in a sense.
Great. So thinking about Startup Huddle, Global Entrepreneurship Week, just kind of from a higher level perspective, what advice do you have about keeping entrepreneurs at the forefront of all of that programming?
What happened in my time, my country or Startup Huddle, so I used to take that founders from any organization whose age is 25 to 35, so people who is actually students level, so they used to listen to the younger people most, I found, so that I asked them to come for the awareness, so they feel confident about, like, if that guy is youngest stand up to do something by him, so why not I will start my own as well. So they will just listen to him. And another thing is I used to focus on the challenges and failures happened in his or her business while he is doing his business. So that could feel them another thing that, oh, he failed, but he didn't stop there and move on. So that is another motivation the participants of Startup Huddle found in my session.
And just a quick follow-up, because I have heard that a lot this GEC, is that a lot of cultures don't embrace the failure. And I do think, or maybe if you can weigh in on this, is that something that you've seen Startup Huddle help with, is kind of reframing what failure and pivoting looks like?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know how it is in your cultures, but in Chile we are very, I guess, close-minded. We don't want to share our opinions, as Yuval said, our inventions, our ideas, and because we fear that someone's gonna take this idea and do it themselves. But I guess the best part, the good part about Startup Huddle is that it helps open up this whole process. And sometimes it might be a little bit forced from the speaker. The first one we had, the speaker actually would say, like, okay, you have an idea, go ahead, tell me. So let's share. And even though he felt a little bit nervous, the person who was being asked, it did help. And afterwards, you could see that that person was talking about his idea with different people who were there at the networking event. So sometimes you need a little bit of a push in order to make this follow through, and it does help a lot.
Any other feedback on the paradigm shift that can occur with this type of programming?
Okay, well, with regards to failure, we do not say that it's wrong to fail. It's better to learn to fail now than later. When you are starting up, you start up with a dream that you're going to be successful. And more often than not, what ends up happening is that within a year, you end up closing your shop. Or you end up saying, okay, this is not working out, let me try something else. But then who helps you? You don't know where you went wrong. That's what Startup Huddle enables you to do. You're able to connect with persons who have been there, who are at various stages of their business, who are scaling up, who have been successful and who have failed. And they're going to tell you, it is okay to fail, but you do it within this community setting. You understand where you can go wrong, where you can go right, and the changes you can make, so that you know that if you do fail, there is a support system that can help you get right back up and then move forward. So that type of support system is what we are creating with Startup Huddle. It's a community of entrepreneurs. It's a community of mentors. So no longer is the entrepreneur fearful of failing. They'll be like, okay, now I'm willing to share these things, and I know I'll get some really great feedback because these are people that care about me because they are just like me. Before, people used to think entrepreneurs were crazy, and they thought I was the only one. We're not the only crazy people in the world, but we're good. We're crazy in a good way. And we want to share the experiences so that we can help one another. And crossing borders is what GN enables persons to do through programs like Startup Huddle. So I'm really, really glad that I introduced it to St. Lucia, and I'm really hoping that you decide to do the very same with your countries.
So we have time for one question, if anyone has a question. No questions. Raise your hand if you're a Startup Huddle organizer. Raise your hand if you're interested in Startup Huddle. What if?
Excellent.
What? And go ahead.
You guys. Thank you. If you are interested in starting Startup Huddle, just find one of the people either on stage or that just raised their. Can you raise your hand again if you? Awesome. If you're a Startup Huddle organizer, raise your hand. Great. So 4 in the crowd and then the 4 up here. Before you leave, just shake hands with one of the people that is organizing so you can just get in contact with them at some point, and they'll send you our way afterwards, but you'll get a chance to meet them here at least. So that way we can at least get you started. And I forget your name. Yeah. Sonia is a 1 Million Cups organizer, so she can also tell you more about, it's the same program, and she can tell you all about her experience in New Mexico and what she's been doing there for a while as well. So another good resource.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Huge thanks to the panel. This is, as everyone knows, really hard but fulfilling work. So thank you for all that you're doing for your communities, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you guys for coming.